Americans of Reddit. What places in America should foreigners avoid at all cost? Desert hiking trails in the summer. No, you cannot handle the heat. No, you did not bring enough water. And yes, there is a big chance someone could die. I went to Arizona to visit a friend, and he took me on a hike. I used to be in pretty good shape until my daughter was born, so I wasn't exactly prepared for this one. I managed fine though, since my job is physical, and I've hiked plenty in the past. But man, when we got to the trailhead and I saw the sign listing the cost of rescues, the number of rescues each year, and the average deaths, I got a little nervous. Maybe a new dad who hasn't worked out in months shouldn't be doing this. Death Valley actually claimed another German as recently as last summer. A group of them decided to ride motorcycles through it in July. 2 had to be airlifted to Las Vegas and 1 didn't make it. There was also a guy from Belgium who ended up with third-degree burns on his feet after trying to hike the sand dunes in flip-flops. Also in July. Something about American deserts and Northern Europeans just doesn't seem to mix. The story of the Germans in Death Valley is exactly why I went there in January, when it was a comfortable 63 degrees. Death Valley is a stunning place, but I have no interest in being there when it's 130 degrees. The name Death Valley alone should be enough to make you think twice before visiting in extreme heat. Unless you're from a very hot climate, avoid any outdoor recreational activities like running or hiking in dry, arid areas between April and November. Every year, there are both local and national stories about European tourists, often for some reason German, heading out for hikes in Arizona, California, or Nevada in August, disappearing, and then being found dead days or weeks later. It happens without fail every year. The kind of heat we get in certain parts of this country is almost impossible to describe unless you've grown up with it. In some areas, it's even worse than the Sahara. Death Valley is literally the hottest place on Earth. It's called Death Valley for a reason, and I have no idea why the hell people choose to go there in extreme heat. I'm German, but I moved to Austria back in 2011. I lived in a spot up in the Alps right near the German border. And you would not believe how often hikers needed to be rescued from the mountains, easily 80% of it happening in the winter. They'll go hiking when there's a stage 3 avalanche warning. They'll head out when a massive thunderstorm is rolling in. They'll hike in alpine terrain wearing sandals, or even ballerina flats. They'll drive up there with summer tires when there's 5 to 6 feet of snow all around. And a lot of the time, when the specialized mountain rescue team tells them to stay where they are and wait, they ignore it and just walk away. So yeah, I can confirm, most of those tourists you're talking about really are Germans. If you're heading to Times Square at night, keep it short, like less than 30 minutes, unless you're there for a Broadway show. Don't stop to eat, don't stop to shop, and definitely don't talk to anyone trying to sell you stuff or tours. Times Square is crazy crowded, and the people selling tickets or taking photos in costumes can be super pushy. The food and shops are mostly overpriced and just tourist traps. So enjoy the bright lights, snap your pics, and then get out before you get hassled or spend way too much. The reality is, most of the places tourists in the US are told to avoid are places tourists wouldn't even think about visiting anyway. Millions of people come to California every year from all over the world, but very few ever plan to visit Stockton. Tons of tourists flock to New York City, but hardly anyone heads to Hunts Point. Florida is a major tourist hotspot, yet I'd bet most have never even heard of Belle Glade. Tourists usually stick to the popular, site-filled spots, and those areas are almost always safe. If you are worried about getting shot, stabbed, or beaten as a tourist, here's some simple advice. Don't try buying drugs off street dealers, and don't drive your rental car into rough neighborhoods while pulling out expensive cameras to snap pics of the local wildlife. But honestly, that advice applies to pretty much any major city anywhere in the world. We actually went to Memphis, Tennessee, even though people warned us we'd get killed there. We're from South Africa, so maybe we just see things differently. We stayed 2 nights at the Peabody Hotel, and it was amazing. The duck parade was definitely the highlight of the trip for my son. For a total off, we also spent a night at the hotel inside the Bass Pro Shop. Honestly, the room was surprisingly nice. It was pure Americana all around, and we loved it. We took walks through some of the parks, and while we were resting on a bench, a local inner-city school group came over during their break. The kids were playing American football, and my 11-year-old asked if you could join since they were about his age. They welcomed him right in, and he had a blast. He even scored a touchdown. Memphis ended up being one of our favorite stops on the road trip. I stopped to gas in Memphis once. It was 3 a.m. I opened the door to the gas station and saw a baby sitting right there on the floor in front of the door, just waiting in line. I stepped over the baby and headed to the restroom. Later, I was standing in the same line with my coffee, waiting to pay when the clerk says, "This line is for cigarettes and lotto tickets only." Man, what the heck was that baby buying? Atlantic City, New Jersey. It really is a shadow of what it used to be. I was there just last week. We were making our way up the coast and booked 2 days and nights in AC to check out the boardwalk and beach. But we ended up leaving after just 1 day and ate the cost of the second night. We stayed at Bally's Hotel and Casino. The room was nice enough, but the boardwalk? It was terrible. Not much to see or do compared to other real beach towns, and honestly, we never felt safe. Security at the hotel was basically non-existent. There were unmanned security checkpoints between the casino and the rooms. At one point, we even found a homeless guy asleep in the hotel right at the top of a 6-story elevator that goes straight up from the boardwalk. He was just hanging out in the elevator lobby. We stepped around him and kept going. When we checked out early, nobody even asked why. Best and worst simultaneously. Yellowstone. If you can't stay on the marked paths or keep a respectable distance from the wildlife, you're going to have a very bad day. At best, you can get fined by the park rangers. At worst, you can fall into a caldera or get smashed by a bison. Hollywood Walk of Fame. It's just a sidewalk with some tiles and people trying to part you from your money. Times Square. It's a shopping mall with enough LED lighting to give you a seizure. Walking through it just once for the lighting is interesting, but there are almost no reason to stop there. Niagara Falls. If you must, go to the Canadian side. It offers the most iconic panoramic views of all 3 falls: the Horseshoe Falls, American Falls, and Bridal Veil Falls. You absolutely cannot explore remote Alaska on your own. Find a guide, connect with locals, book a tour guide. I live here and I carry 3 satellite Garmin devices, 2 handguns, bear spray, and a tote bag full of layers and food with me everywhere. Most of Alaska doesn't have phone service. You need AirMed, and they have to be able to find you. This isn't a place to visit or move to on a whim. It's tough, expensive, and people aren't exactly friendly. My dad wanted to move to Alaska back in the 60s. My mom and I were freaking out. Dad was abusive and lazy. Mom ended up writing to the governor about the situation, and he sent her information about how extreme the environment was with no real infrastructure, plus how much money you'd need to make it work. Mom was grateful to that man for the rest of her life. I was just glad I wasn't spending my teen years in the middle of nowhere. Absolutely beautiful state though. Eventually, Mom and I visited Alaska in 2006. I would second what others say about parks. Our wildlife isn't like European wildlife. It can and will end you. But what to avoid isn't what tourists should be concerned with. They should be concerned with the size. The US is very close to the size of Europe, East and West combined. You are not going to be getting pizza in New York City one day, drive to Miami the next day, and check out Los Angeles on the third day. New York City to Los Angeles is almost exactly the same distance as Paris to Moscow. I had a tourist once ask me the quickest route to the Grand Canyon from New Hampshire. I told them to fly out of Logan Airport in Boston. They were surprised because they thought it would be about an 8-hour drive. The hospital. No, seriously. Get travel medical insurance before you come here, and if you're anything but mortally wounded, take an Uber rather than an ambulance. Not an American, but as a visitor trying to travel on the cheap, I made the mistake of booking a Greyhound bus ride. Actually, there are reasons why their tickets are so cheap. Yeah, I had a guy next to me overdose on a Greyhound once. When I realized I was trying to help him and another passenger rolled their eyes and just said, "He's having a bad trip," like it was just another Tuesday. Bus driver didn't even really want to stop until I pointed out the guy was unconscious and vomiting weird biohazard fluid that was flowing up the bus aisle all the way to the front. Cheap ticket though. Edit. Guy got resuscitated, don't worry. The funny thing is, non-Americans can go anywhere they darn well please and be welcomed, because all of us enjoy other accents that aren't American. We are just weird that way. I knew a Japanese man who found himself in the heart of Compton with his Japanese to English dictionary and was escorted to the airport by a gang. They even told him no one would believe it if he told the story. So I guess the lesson is to get a paperback Your Language to American English book and you're golden. Thank you for watching. Write in the comments if you know a place that a tourist should definitely avoid in the United States. See you in the next video!